So if you think about, we've been thinking about how to like create a good AI.
Yes.
What if in the scenario we presume that you can create a good AI?
Yeah.
What's life going to be like for humans at that point? Like what's the daily life of a person going to be? Because like we said before, we're passing off all the intellectual heavy lifting to a machine.
Yeah.
So we're not thinking about like how to develop society, etc. What are we doing? We said earlier we've made like a pleasure kind of thing that just sort of sits around. But like no one's gonna go to work. Like what are people going to be working on? I mean, you talked about the planes earlier. You know, no one's going to be working as pilots because the AI will be flying things and you know automating things. And
all transport, all industry, all science, all medicine, everything like that. I mean, government probably wouldn't even exist in the same way.
No.
Like the legal system.
Yeah, we said money wouldn't exist.
Money wouldn't exist.
Like legal system. Yeah, the economy.
Like, would crime exist? We're imagining sort of like a utopia, and like a technologically enabled utopia. Essentially, is what it will be, where everyone's sort of free to pursue their
whatever
goals
they fancy
and dreams and stuff. So, but surely you still have like some crazy people who want to hurt people.
Well, yeah. You'd have a very efficient like policing system.
Yeah, well, the AI will just sort it out. Maybe.
Well, yeah.
No, there's people just sort of
the
suspiciously
one thing is like how much would people interact in this future? Because we wouldn't have a need. I mean, people like to interact.
Yeah, I think there'll be lots of social interaction. I think.
But so for example, I mean, we may even like be able to kind of. People talk about augmenting your brain with a computer and making ourselves able to think more clearly, and kind of maybe we can borrow some of the AI's like sort of power of intelligence basically for a little bit, and try and solve some problems of our own, or you know just kind of like perceive the world differently. And then you know we may end up like people again have talked about merging with a computer, kind of like maybe like even transferring your consciousness to a computer. Like would we naturally become like digitized in this kind of this post singularity world? Does it look like a place? Are there people walking around, or are there people?
Yeah, is it just like a really nice version of this?
Yeah.
Or is it like fundamentally different?
Yeah.
Like have we sort of become like digitized, or like one with the AI in some way, or like
what
is that even possible? Is that
because maybe the best way it decides to like stop us dying, stop us feeling pain and stuff, is to separate us from our bodies.
Yeah.
And I mean, for a start, I mean, could you even transfer your consciousness to a computer, do you think?
That's a really hard question to answer.
It is.
I mean, in the sense that you would be able, if you knew exactly how a human consciousness was constructed, a human mind was constructed, you should be able to construct an identical thing within a computer system to house like a human type consciousness. But whether like your consciousness could move from your brain into that, it would have to have the continuum. You have to. You could make like a copy, like a snapshot copy of your brain that you upload into a computer, and it would be identical to you in every single way. But like your conscious experience would not just suddenly wake up in that computer. Yeah. Because it's not the same continuum that's had like, the same like thread. Like,
it's like the teleportation thing. Yeah. It's like if you like copy people at two ends of it. If you like molecularly copy someone identically and then out of some molecules on the other side, make the exact copy of them in their exact state. The person on the other side of the teleportation doesn't experience waking up on the other side. No. They just well, presumably if they're being disintegrated, they die. Yeah. And wakes up on the other side as an identical person, but it's not the person that went in. Yeah.
And to everyone from on the outside, they'd be like, it might as well be the same person.
But the
actual conscious experience of the original person would end. Yeah. At that point.
So you couldn't like plug in a lead to your brain and just like drain your consciousness out into a computer through like a USB cable. But probably not. But not in that way. You might be able to though if you start like integrating parts of your
like building like almost like plugins, just like bits.
Well, sort of, yeah. So like is it the hippocampus? Is it the part of the brain that's really good at? It's like the top like hierarchy in the brain. Yeah. Is it the hippocampus? I can't remember. Essentially, there's like
cerebral cortex. I can't remember. It's like the outside like envelope.
I don't know. Anyway, but there's this hierarchy that's built into the human brain that's much a stronger hierarchy than other animals, and that's why the human brain is so much more efficient.
Yeah.
The fact that we can be smaller than like an elephant brain, but a lot more integrated.
Yeah.
If you want to use that term.
Sure.
But a lot more. It results in a lot more intelligent behavior, consciousness, etc.
Yeah.
And maybe a more conscious experience. And so, if you could augment that by adding another layer of like hierarchy to it with like an electronic thing, you might begin to because it's plugging itself directly into the continuum of your consciousness.
Yeah.
You would start experiencing like into the computer if it was integrating in that way and thinking at like a higher level, and you might be able to then like have a continuum in which your consciousness, you experience yourself like moving out into a digital world or a digital form, or like a kind of emulated digital form.
Yes.
It's not going to be like the brain isn't like digital or analog. It's kind of a mixture. But
digital meaning like non-biological.
Yes, into an artificial
rather than
shell.
Actually digital, like binary digital.
So you actually feel yourself like moving up into it and kind of. So maybe there's like a way you could do it that way potentially. Yeah. As in you're not in any point like having two separate things, but rather your conscious experience.
You're just augmenting your conscious experience. Directed up into this,
and so you have like you experience extra intelligence and stuff, but you also experience moving out into a computer, into another kind of system.
And what the hell
does that be like? I don't know,
like that moment of like moving
it would be done, I imagine, slowly.
Well,
I mean, who knows?
But once you have like a perception of what it of you'll suddenly realise that like how slow and limited like your original human brain was.
Yeah. And
like you're able to perceive like things like multiple dimensions and time in a different way. Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know why that's jumped into my head.
Yeah, but
I was just thinking of like the fact that it's impossible to imagine like a hypercube, like a 4-dimensional cube.
Yeah.
It's impossible to imagine in your head. But maybe if you had like, I don't know, more computing power, you could like, I don't know why I'm fixated on this. Like picturing that is something that's like could be opened up as like a physical possibility. It has no like use in reality at all. But
maybe because you can see the mathematical constructs of it.
Exactly, just an example of a way like of like augmenting thinking.
Yeah.
Beyond like just like making yourself a bit smarter. It's like a fundamental like shift in perception.
Exactly, a fundamental shift. So imagine like the way you perceive numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. And the way someone, like, there was a guy who's like a savant in maths, and he perceives numbers as like a landscape and can do like any calculation to greater complexity than like an average computer can, and all this kind of crazy stuff. And like he sees pi as like a really like perfect landscape. You might start experiencing things in like that way.
Yes.
That's more similar to that like are a result of being at like a higher intelligence level. And so that kind of thing may begin to happen, and you may begin kind of lifting.
Yeah, and once that starts to happen.
You can imagine
what separates the individual people. Like once that kind of transition begins to happen.
If you're drained out of your not drained out, but if you
like does it become to benefit people to actually be able to kind of like join, like connect with each other, and rather than having
you mean
to
become like a consensual kind of consciousness? I don't know. But like, well, I mean, maybe
you're sort of aware of other people's like consciousnesses, kind of, and like, I don't know what the hell, I don't know what that is.
Well, that's the singularity, isn't it?
Yeah.
The post AI explosion world is wildly unpredictable.
Yeah. And
it may result in something like that, where, I mean, people are quite literally just a pool of kind of of different integrated parts that are like housed in, maybe they're not even housed in localized places. I mean, you could just become a network of things, like a superorganism.
Yeah. You kind of, I can't help it. I mean, you can't. It's impossible to even imagine this. But like, I can't reconcile that. Surely by doing that, you kind of lose your consciousness in a way.
Yeah.
Like your individual consciousness.
You lose your sense of self.
Yeah. It's not necessarily a bad thing, I guess.
You lose your sense of of being an individual.
Yeah.
And that would not be a desire that people don't have that desire, so they wouldn't undertake it. But maybe it's just a natural kind of way of, once you begin integrating with a larger system and experiencing higher levels of intelligence and
you just augmenting your
brain, you just naturally begin to move out of it.
Yeah. And then that basically what that ends up being is that humankind is just sort of assimilated into the ASI, and that all that's really left is this ASI.
Yeah.
And it's essentially killed us, but we were all right with it.
It sort of domesticated us like a dog, like we did with dogs.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I mean, was there a smarter move on an animal's part and any other animal's part? I mean, dogs have done very, very well from cozying up to the smartest thing on the planet.
Yeah.
We could potentially do very, very well from cozying up right close next to an ASI.
That's very true.
Be the dogs of the ASI. I don't know what benefit it would think that would bring, but in the scenario where the ASI is kind of not particularly like hostile or anything, it's just doing, it's just running things and doing things that we want it to.
Yeah.
If we want to do that, then it would allow it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can kind of see if it's good, if like this idea of like augmenting your brain, like moving into a kind of slightly more higher intelligence, like machine substrate thinking or whatever. Like if it's good, if we're like, oh, that's good fun. Like the kind of, there would be like just a natural transition towards it over time. People doing it more and more often and spending longer and longer.
Yeah. Like
in that kind of,
in a way that we're moving more and more into the digital world just from our everyday lives.
And it might just seem like the real world is kind of dull and
limited.
And limited in comparison.
Yeah. Quite possibly. The fact that obviously like the technology to do that is so far away, but the point is that the ASI would build it all and do it all.
And this could be happening within this century,
according to science.
That's unbelievable. I mean, literally unbelievable. Like I don't believe it. I mean, I say that like, what I mean by that is I can't help but think like, surely not.
Well, that brings up the question: is this all hype?
Yes.
Because technologies get hyped over the years. AI has been hyped up before as being like a big, massive breakthrough that's going to change everything, and it hasn't happened. And there's like, if you look at the history of AI research, there's like they call them like deserts of AI research or interest or funding in AI research that happen when people realise that AI can't do the things in the time period they think it can.
Yeah, sure.
And so you end up with these long periods where there wasn't much funding going towards AI research.
Yeah. It's been since like the 50s or 60s, like a thing that's always like 20, 30 years away.
Like fusion or something.
Yeah, or like going to Mars.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in that sense, is what we're talking about now, and is what other people like the kind of the growing excitement about this, or the growing interest in this, is that just to represent another kind of overly ambitious or overly optimistic or pessimistic, depending on how you look at it, prediction, something that's not realistic.
Yes.
I mean, obviously we have no answer to that.
No, we have no answer to that, except for to say something like that the fact that these things are expected to happen and have been expected to happen for a long time but haven't happened.
Yeah.
Does not mean that they won't happen. And things like virtual reality, for example, is nowhere near as complicated, nowhere near as not close to the same level.
Yeah.
Was thought for years it was going to happen, then it didn't happen, then no one thought it was going to happen, and then suddenly the technology was ready and it's going to start happening. I mean, they're coming out this year. Yeah. So in the same way, AI, it seemed like it wasn't going to happen lots of different times, but there is still a continued thought, that a continued view of the majority of people in the research fields that are related to it, that it's going to be a massive deal at some point.
Yeah.
And at some point, my personal view is that at some point it will be a massive deal. I don't know quite. Obviously, I don't know when that is. I have no reason to suggest. I have no data on me to suggest that it's going to happen whenever these people are saying.
Yeah.
But it makes logical sense that it would happen.
Yeah. I totally agree. It doesn't seem. There doesn't seem to be any reason why it would not happen. All intelligence is just a complex way of processing information. There's nothing as we've talked about in the last few episodes. There's nothing special about intelligence, consciousness, whatever. So it makes sense that we can get to a point eventually where we can build something that's capable of exhibiting that. Whether that's going to happen this century or next century, that's harder to answer. But the fact that more and more people are saying that it's likely to be happening in the next
I mean, the surveys are in terms of this century, they're almost unanimously going to happen this century, or it's impossible. And the impossible is like 2% of people.
Yeah. So there's almost nobody saying that it's going to happen, but it's going to happen like several centuries from now.
Yeah. Most people who think it's going to happen think it's going to happen this century.
Yeah, and the mental thing about it is that concept that like out of sheer luck, we are potentially a generation that's going to be alive at the most significant like change in human history.
Yeah.
The point at which everything changes. This entire world that we know changes. And like there's something about the concept of that like you just want to be like, nah, surely not. Surely not.
It doesn't sound possible.
But somebody's got to be alive at that point,
yeah.
right? Like,
yeah, true.
So, you know, like why not now? It does seem like all these things are converging towards a certain point, and you know, like look how fast things have moved in the last 10 years and likely will in the next 10 years.
It does. I agree. I mean, it's I mean, I think you're just talking about like what it's going to be like in the future for in a sort of post-singularity world. There's going to be but there may not be people born after the singularity, which is another thought.
Yeah, that's a good point. Or not many anyway. Depends how rapidly things change, I guess.
If people don't have any, they might still.
Because there's some people think that it will be rapid, but it won't be like instantaneous change. Then obviously other people say like, okay, this thing is gonna become super intelligent like 3 hours later, and then be like changing the world like next day or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
So it depends how quickly it happens, but I mean, you might find that it becomes more important to, if we can build a friendly AI, to like maximize the happiness or whatever of the people that are alive. That's like viewed as more important than like hypothetical future humans. So everything gets focused on like people now.
But then people still have urges to have children. Don't they? Like, sure. Makes them happy.
Yeah.
So I imagine they won't stop having children in that sense.
No.
If the AI is allowing it.
Yeah.
And if it's allowing it and we're allowing to, so in that scenario,
in like a happy future scenario, well, I mean, if we have an AI on our side, like space isn't going to be an issue, resources aren't going to be an issue.
Well, so that's the key thing, is that like lifetimes probably won't be an issue anymore. Aging will be sorted out, and disease and stuff. So if the singularity happens and me and you live to like 2050, okay, and it happens then. Like in a post-singularity world, the medical advances are going to be so rapid that we're probably going to live for an extremely long time.
Yeah.
On that, based in that world, right? So therefore, there's going to be like a generation of people that are in the post-singularity world that come from before the singularity happened, and then a load of people were born after. And the world post-singularity is going to be so radically different, presumably, than the world before, that there'll be like people with such a different view of the world around compared to the new people.
Yeah. Because
we'll be like considered, I don't know, either
it's like relics of like the old world, like yeah. I mean, but there will probably be quite a few of them, but they'll rapidly get diluted if you know new generations are being born and stuff as you go forward. And if people are living for hundreds of years, you imagine like hundreds of years after the singularity, and there's still people around that were alive before and can remember the world before. Yeah. Like, how would they be viewed by the rest of society?
I mean, I can remember
like
when I
celebrities or like kind of shunned, not shunned, but like kind
too
of
many
like,
of them probably to be celebrities.
Yeah.
Right, 10, 12 billion, well, by 2050, I mean, God knows.
Yeah. If that many people do end up living forever, that's a crazy thought.
But I mean, we can remember obviously back to a time when there was no computer. I didn't have a computer in the house. Like no computer. I remember getting the first computer. Imagine that. Imagine like in your lifetime, looking back, like in like 300 years, you're like sitting in like some weird like habitat, like, in orbit around Titan or something. Yeah. And you're just like, oh yeah, I remember when I was a kid, we didn't have a computer in our house. Yes. And now look at us. Yeah. Or like not even that, you're just like uploaded into some like machine consciousness. Yeah. And you can remember people that died of like cancer or died in road accidents or died in, and that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. Like the concept of people dying through like anything but their own choice. Yeah. It's just like, what?
And people used to kill each other, like with
over
bombs.
like
squabbles over
bits of land
and like religious views and and you know resources and
it's hard not to think about that and just want it really badly. Like that future just seems perfect.
Yeah, of course, but it's gonna be tricky to get to.
It's gonna be tricky to get to it. That's the thing. Very, very tricky. Maybe not even possible.